Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Welcome to Year in Review Part 2. And I like reviewing things. I always have. I like to look back. I have to be careful I don't dwell in the past and dwell on my past mistakes, but I do like to look back just to see where I've been. And I did that with this podcast. So you heard part 1 last week. This week is part 2. And what I did is I actually went back and I re-listened, if that's a word, to every podcast. And I got to tell you, I picked up things I didn't hear the first time. Maybe I wasn't ready to hear them, but I picked up a lot more. And I also really like how I do the takeaways, and that's for you. If you don't want to listen to the whole podcast, you can hear the takeaway and move on with your day. But I like to incorporate the takeaways into my life, and then now I have some new takeaways on a few of them. Podcast number 9 was with Brice, and she is the founder of Tech Wellness. I don't know how I found August, but I am so happy that I did. She is all about safe and healthy levels of radiation exposure from cell phones to iPads to laptops to headphones. And one of my big takeaways with August was that Wi-Fi can decrease your melatonin production. When you don't have enough melatonin, you're not going to be a great sleeper. And unfortunately, you're also going to be at much higher risk for breast cancer. And one of the tips that August gave us was to have basically it's called a kill switch. Have a kill switch in your bedroom, which is going to turn off your Wi-Fi so that it doesn't impact your melatonin production. My husband actually did install a kill switch in our bedroom, and August has them for sale on her website. It's one of my favorite things that I've purchased this year. One of the other takeaways from August, she was talking about a research study done by Dr. Lisa Bailey. And she did an MRI phone study, breast imaging study, where she studied women who stored their cell phones in their bras. And what she discovered is that for the women who ended up with breast cancer, their tumor mimicked the look of their cell phone. I tell you, if that's not enough to break that habit, I don't know what will break that habit. But ladies, please do not carry your cell phone in your bra. And if you do need to do that, put it on airplane mode before you stick it in there with the girls. Episode 10 and 11 were with my friend Hilda Labrador from the Weston A. Price Foundation. Hilda is an expert in ancestral living. So basically, embracing things that our grandparents did, eating off the land, going outside first thing in the morning, living a more simple life that's going to really support your health. So a couple of amazing takeaways I had with Hilda. This was a quote, and she quoted a friend of hers who said, "You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick." So I really had to give that a lot of thought. I couldn't heal in the same environment that supported me getting cancer. So I needed to take a look. What do I need to change in my environment so that I don't get cancer again? There's a lot of things I changed. And having this conversation with Hilda about the things that I needed to change to make sure I didn't get cancer again was really eye-opening. So a few of the things that I've changed is I don't make such a long list every day anymore. We all have our list. We are all super, super busy, but I take more time in the morning for me. I go outside, I see the morning sun, I walk around barefoot in my yard, and then I start my day after that, instead of just getting up and just going straight to my phone. That was one of my favorite tips that I had from Hilda. One of the other great tips was something she called stack your hacks. And I love this. And so basically what she's saying is it's great if you start with walking around your yard barefoot, or it's great if you start with turning off the news at night, but you can start to stack those hacks and really start to see your health increase. Maybe you get blue light blockers. Maybe you stay off your phone an hour before bed, or maybe you just don't bring your cell phone into your bedroom. But start to look at these healthy hacks and how you can stack them to get to that next level of health that you're looking for. On episode 12 and 13, I interviewed Ann Byler, founder of Auntie Anne's Pretzel franchise. This pretzel franchise is the largest pretzel franchise in the world. Ann is also a sexual abuse survivor, and we had an incredible discussion about how you are only as sick as your secrets. We talked about having safe people in your life to really be able to explore trauma with. This might be a friend, it might be a family member, it might be a counselor, but that person has to be safe and they have to hear your heart without necessarily trying to fix you. One of the other takeaways I had from my conversation with Ann is the importance of telling the truth. And she kept secrets for 20 plus years, letting it just stay inside. And it really started to impact her health. And what she told me is that you just never know what is on the other side of transparency. So she found some safe people in her life. They really began to support her and help her through this terrible trauma, multiple traumas that she had been through. And on the other side of moving through that in such a courageous way, she founded Auntie Anne's Pretzel franchise. Again, one of the most profitable and well-known pretzel franchises in the world. Episode 16 and 17 was with my friend, Dr. Jen Simmons, who's a functional medical doctor whose focus is breast health. Dr. Jen and I also had an incredible takeaway focused on trauma and women, and what she was saying that in newly diagnosed breast cancer, up to 80% of the women had unresolved trauma in their life. So the advice Dr. Jen gives us is do whatever you can to resolve trauma in your life. See a trusted counselor, have safe people in your life. And her philosophy is that if you can start to resolve your trauma, you can dramatically knock down your cancer risk. Dr. Jen's second takeaway, which was from episode 17, she talks a lot about not rushing digestion and don't eat too late at night. So when it comes to rushing digestion, meaning you eat too fast, I mean, we joke about this all the time at my house. I'm a slow eater. My husband eats like he is still in the army. He will finish a meal and I'm maybe a third of the way in. So when you slow down how quickly you eat, it allows your stomach to do what it needs to do to break that food down. When you really break the food down, your body absorbs more nutrients. One of her suggestions also is to put the fork down between each bite, which I got to tell you, that is no easy task. Her other bit of advice is not to eat too late at night. Here's the reason why, is when you're eating late at night, your body is digesting when it should be sleeping. She said she compares it to putting in a final load of laundry in right before bed, and you have to stay up to transfer the laundry, which means you're not sleeping. When you're sleeping, your body is repairing. When your body is repaired, it means your immune system is stronger, which is going to help you to prevent all types of chronic disease, and including things like colds and flus. So her advice, try to cut off eating at least a couple of hours before bed. You'll end up sleeping better, which means you're going to have a much stronger immune system. Episode 18 was with my great friend, Dr. Greg Jantz. Dr. Jantz and I met years ago, probably, 15 years ago, in the green room at our local TV station here in Seattle called King 5. And we had such an informative discussion about mental health. One of my big takeaways from our conversation is Dr. Jantz said, we are truly in a sleep epidemic. Dr. Jantz said he even has patients who wake up in the middle of the night point having a full-fledged panic attack. So he said one of his favorite suggestions to his patients is to cut out all screens at least an hour before bed. Looking at your screen, it's going to help to decrease melatonin production, which means you're not going to sleep as deeply. But also, what are we looking at on those screens? Are we watching the news? Are we reading the news? All of these things can really agitate us and contribute to that sleep epidemic he was talking about. A couple of other key takeaways from Dr. Jantz. He was talking about the importance of community and how we are all just, especially during the pandemic, on our phones too much and also on social media too much. And he was saying we have never been more connected from a social media standpoint, but we've also never had such high levels of loneliness in our society. So he's really his suggestion, put the phone down and figure out how you can connect with people, eye contact. And he also said he loves hugging. So try to get out there and hug some necks this week. The final takeaway with Dr. Jantz is he really broke down our three basic human needs, and that's to be accepted in love, number one. Number two, affirmed, basically, I have value. And number three, that you really have a purpose for your life and that people acknowledge who you are. He was saying it's really important to have at least 3 to 4 people in your life who support you in this way, and that those 3 to 4 people need to be positive, trustworthy, healing, praying, and truth-telling. He said you don't need to have 7 or 8 people like that. Just a couple of people can make all the difference in your mental health. Episode 19 and 20 were with Dr. Leigh, Erin, Connealy, the author of The Cancer Revolution. I have to tell you, I have listened to this podcast so many times, and every time I listen to it, I feel like I get something new out of it. And one of the things that she was saying is that it's truly time to sound the alarm on cancer, and that cancer is the leading cause of death in children now. And we really need to take a look at that. What can we do to get our children to be healthier? Do we need to change their food? Do we need to protect them from EMFs in the environment? How do we knock down their toxin load? At the same time, we're knocking down our toxin load. She was also saying that in our country now, there are over 10 prescriptions written for every man, woman, and child. I don't know how you feel about that, but I found that information to be shocking, because I can tell you right now, I don't have 10 prescriptions written for me. So does that mean that there are other people who have 15 or 20 prescriptions? Do we need to be taking all of these medications? Are there things we can do in our daily life to get on the other side of chronic disease and illness? One of the other interesting takeaways Dr. Connealy shared is that it takes 10 years for a cancer cell to turn into a tumor. So she said one of the most important things she does as a cancer physician is ask her patients, what's been going on with you for the last 10 years? And that allows her to better treat the whole person. And I love this approach. We are more than our symptoms, and we are more than the diseases we are diagnosed with. And it's really important to make sure that the people on your healthcare team are looking at the root cause, the possible root cause of why you got cancer or diabetes or lupus or autoimmune disorders. It's really important to have somebody take a look at your whole life. I just want to thank you all for joining me on this journey for the last year. And I have learned so much. The information I now have in my head and that I use in my life are things that I didn't do before cancer. I really am committed to never getting cancer again and to helping all of you to never get it. So thank you again for joining me on this journey. I have thoroughly enjoyed this podcast year in review. And as I said, going back and re-listening, I picked up so many more tips and I can't wait to start incorporating them into my daily routine. I love my cell phone. I love my AirPods, I admit it. But what I don't love is the radiation and electromagnetic frequencies that are coming out of both of those things. So all of a sudden, I got this ad on Instagram about this product called WaveBlock. Honestly, it seemed too good to be true. So I called the owner. His name is Ben, and we had an amazing conversation about this product he created basically to protect his kids from EMFs that were coming out of cell phones and headphones and you name it. He explained the whole process to me, how he took it to Europe to get it tested, and how it really can block the EMFs that are coming out of our devices. So I've got a great coupon code for all of our listeners today. Go to the WaveBlock website. It's in today's show notes. Use the code ENOS20, and you can get 20% off of his products. Two of the products that I'm currently using are his wraparound WaveBlock for my AirPods, and then I also just got a new cell phone, and he has a sticker that can go on the back of the cell phone that is also going to help to knock down the EMFs. It just gives me a little bit more comfort, I think, with using these items. Go to today's show notes to get your 20% off coupon for WaveBlock. Thank you for joining me today on the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I've got my shopping guide for all of my cancer self-care items in the show notes, along with information about today's guest and our show sponsors. And don't forget to subscribe to my podcast so you never miss an episode. Keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a gal that got diagnosed with cancer and wanted answers. If you need medical advice, please be sure to consult with a medical professional. And thank you for listening.